Alad Shabbos Parshas Truma, which is also Shabbos Parshas Shkolim, just like this week is Shabbos Parshas Shkolim, and that's why we're going to be learning a mimer on the Parshas Shkolim. It says, Kisisas Rosh Bnei Yisrael of Kudeya, when you will count the heads of the Bnei Yisrael to their numbers, V'nosnu each koifer nafshay, each person will give an atonement for his soul. In other words, the half a shekel was considered an atonement, like a kapara. Reason why it says kisisa, when you will count. So two things. It says it in second person, meaning it's addressed towards someone. You, whoever that is, will do the counting. And also it's using in the you in the singular, not kisis u, but kisisa, you will count. This is very similar to what we had in Parsha Mishpatim, kisikna, even though it says El Mishpatim Mishtasim Lifneihem in third person plural, still in all when it comes to acquiring an Eved Ivri, it says kisikna, you, singular, second person, will acquire an Eved Ivri. So, just like in that parsha we explained, Kisikna is referring to Moshe Rabbeinu, the same thing over here, we will also say, but over here it's in the simple pshat. Over there, it's according to Chassidus. Here it's in the simple meaning. Who was the one that was going to count Bnei Yisrael? Koi bepashtus al Moshe. In the simple meaning, it's referring to Moshe Rabbeinu. That specifically through him, Moshe Rabbeinu had to be the counting goyim. So first of all, we have to understand the reason why is it Moshe Rabbeinu specifically that needs to do this. Frat, especially from the fact that the pasuk emphasized the command that when you will count, he says it specifically to Moshe. It's obvious there is a possibility that this could be done by someone else. If it has to tell you in singular first person, you, Moshe Rabbeinu, should count, that means that it's not out of the question that there's some other people that are going to do it. So since there is a possibility for other people to do it, and still in all Hashem said, only you, Moshe, should do it. So therefore we have to understand what's the reason that this idea of the counting has to be done specifically through Moshe. Also we have to understand what he's saying. That when you will count the heads of the Bnei Yisrael, as Bnei Yisrael. Stam. It doesn't say that if you will count the Bnei Yisrael, but the heads, in other words, make a head count. And what happens if you just say make a count? Why does it have to refer to it being a head count? Then also the word sisa, which the Mefarshim will try to understand, how is kisisa have to do with counting? Because it means receiving, like Rashi explains, to receive the number of their amount, to know, or the total of their amount of their number, to know how much they are. So that translation, understanding of the word kisisa from the word receiving that number, is no different whether you include the word roish, that you're counting the heads of the Eden, you're taking a head count, or you're just counting the Bnei Yisrael. So why is it necessary to emphasize over here that's a head count? Also the explanation that sisa is from the word raising up. So again, even if you talk about that it's meaning you're raising them up, why is it necessary to emphasize the raising up on the head? What's the exact language that the raising up has to be for the head? You're raising up Klal Yisrael. What's the emphasis on the head? And also we need to understand what's the idea that specifically, how is this taking place? How is it the counting of the Yidden take place through giving a half a shekel. Especially in the continuation of the pasuk, it says that the shekel is made up of 20 gera coins. Still, and all it doesn't say give 10 gera. Specifically, you have to give a half a shekel. So the question is, why specifically is the emphasis on a half a shekel instead of just 10 gera? Oizbeis. This can be understood by first prefacing the idea of a half a shekel. That it affects the atonement of his soul, like the expression of the pasuk. From this is understood that's a very general thing. If it would just say, give a half a shekel, we need to build a mishkan, or give a half a shekel because we need to take account. So fine, it's just like one of the many different things that the Yidden did, or were told to do, or commanded to do, whether there's certain things that were commanded just for that time, or certain things that were commanded for all times, but it's one of 613 mitzvahs. But by adding the words koifer nafshay, that's an atonement of your soul, those words indicate this is a major thing, it's a major event. We are receiving atonement through this. Okay, move on. Gambe Pashtus. Also, it's simply understood if we think about what was the half a shekel used for throughout history, that, and by understanding what it was used for, we'll understand how crucial and how important it is. The half a shekel was given to be able to purchase the communal karbonis of every single year. Throughout the year, you had to bring karbonis, you had to bring the tamid in the morning, tamid in the afternoon, you had to bring the different musaf karbonis of the different Yom Tovim and so on, and Shabbos and Rish Chodesh, and plus other things that you had to bring, the carbon oimer and so on. So all the communal offerings were taken and funded by the Machzah Shekel. So therefore we see how the half a shekel is a very general thing. It's not a specific thing. It includes in it all the karbonos of the entire year. Both the carbon tamid that was brought every single day in the morning and at night, top of the next page, and also the karbonos that were brought in specific days of the year, like the carbon musaf, the karbonos that were brought, let's say, for Yom Kippur, like we said before, the carbon aimer, and so on. Now, the Rebbe expands this and says, when we talk about something that's general and all-encompassing, what does that correspond in our avodah? What in our avodah is considered an all-encompassing general type of avodah? Hu inyan ha'emunah. It's the idea of belief. The belief in the Eibishter. Shu inyan klali shalamayl mischalkus. Belief in Hashem is something that's very general and all-encompassing, that's beyond the vision. Umakif es kol inyane adam, and it encompasses all matters of a person. When the general idea of belief is the way it's supposed to be, it influences and affects all the specific powers of the person. That in general, these are the 10 soul powers. So you have the general power of Amunah. It encompasses the entire person, but that doesn't remain aloof. It affects, if it's the way it's supposed to be, like that's what he says, it should affect and have to do with the number 10. Like all matters, that in general, throughout the world, all matters are divided into 10 levels. Torah has 10 levels, as encompassed in the Aser Sadibris. The world's creation has to do at 10 levels. Vasar Amoris, the same thing. Like there's the 10 utterances in creation, there's also, and 10 levels in Torah, the Aser Sadibris, the same thing, there's the number 10 in the person's soul. Because all the entire idea of division breaks down into the 10 system, the system of 10. Because all of these divisions throughout Seder Ishtalshlus, in the Torah and in the creation and a person's soul, is all similar to the 10 spheres. And because of that, in everything in the world, it also has the number 10 as used in his chalkus. Like it's explained in Pardes, from the Ramak at the beginning about the number 10, the spheres. And more specifically when talking about divisions, it says in line 12, Yesh in the 10 spheres there are 2 levels. Eser spheres milmato, the 10 spheres, the way they are counted from below to above. We begin with Malchus and we work our way upwards to Yesod, to Hoid, Netzach, and so on until we reach Chochmah. And then there's Eser spheres milmato, and then there's the 10 spheres, the way they come from below, above to below, Chochmah, Bina, Das, till Malchus. Kedis b'Sefer HaBoyer, like it's brought down in the Sefer HaBoyer, an early Kabbalah Sefer. But despite the fact there's 2 ways of counting it, either looking at it from below to above or above to below, still in all, Yesh Rak Eser Spheres. V'loy Esrim Spheres. There's only 10, not 20. We don't say there is 10 spheres going in one direction, 10 spheres going in another direction. It's the same 10 spheres. Because these 2 levels, whether you're counting from below to above or counting from above to below, are in the same 10 spheres. In this itself, there are 2 types of the 10 spheres, 2 ways how these 10 spheres manifest themselves. Either either they manifest themselves and they're revealed in the way of going from below to above or going from above to below. Based on that, now we're going to explain about the coinage that made up the shekel and therefore the machzah shekel. That's also the idea that a shekel was made up of 20 geram. Since in specifics there is 2 levels in the esespheres, 2 times 10 is 20. So therefore the shekel is made up of 20. But what we're actually giving is half of that, only 10 gera. Why? Because after all said and done, like we mentioned before, there's only 10 spheres, there's no 20 spheres. What does that have to do with what we're talking about over here? So if you remember, we said earlier that the idea of machzah shekel is a very general thing, and in the nefesh of a person, what's considered a general thing? The idea of emunah. And emunah is not supposed to stay removed. If it's kedeboy lemeva, like I said, if it's the way it's supposed to be, it's supposed to impact and permeate the entire divisions that there are in the person, the eser koichas nefesh. That is why the general idea of machzah shekel has to be made up of 10 gera. Let's see it inside. Line 22. The general idea behind this is we need to draw down the idea of belief and faith in Hashem in all 10 powers of the soul. Through that the emunah comes down and doesn't just remain aloof and transcendent, but actually permeates the person and it comes into the Eser Kochas HaNefesh. That's how the machzah shekel becomes an atonement. Lashon kapara. What does kapara mean? Like it's explained in the Gersa Tshuva and Tanya, that the word kapara is like wiping something away. Like the expression of the Gemara is that he wanted to wipe his hands of this person. So we see again, chalachpura is from the word kapara, the word wiping clean. Because of like he concludes in the pasuk, not just saying kaifer nafshay, but literally that this will be mechaper, this will cleanse, this will clear up your souls. Va'ad l'shleimus in kapara, until the ultimate level of kapara, of cleansing of the soul. V'zeu bir kisher advarim b'drushim al apasik yisisas rosh. This is also based on what we just now learned. It's understood the connection of the different topics of the mamorim that speak about the pasuk yisisas rosh. So in those mamorim, shemaschilim levayit inyan amuna. Those mamorim begin talking about the topic of belief in Hashem. Top of page Zayin, Mesayim and Bebir Koifer Nafshi L'chaper Nafshi Seichem, and they conclude with the idea of the Koifer Nafshi, the atonement for your soul, and to cleanse the soul, because, as we said before, when you have the Emunah, and the Emunah comes down into the Eser Koiches HaNefesh, that causes the cleansing of the soul. So now, Nois Gimel, the Rebbe is going to talk about the possibility for Emunah not to be that way, and how we need to ensure that it should be that way. Ois Gimel, line 3 on page Zayin. Being an explanation of this matter is when you talk about Emunah itself, not what we're talking about that should permeate the Eser Koiches HaNefesh, but just having Emunah, it's not applicable really the idea of Avodah. Because belief, faith in Hashem, is set by every single Yid by nature of his birth. He has it deep within him. Shari Yisrael, because Yidden are believers, children of believers. This is something that's an inheritance by every single Yid from Avram Avinu, who is also referred to as Rosh Amana. It's a pasuk in Shir Hashirim. Rosh Amana, the Chazal explain what does Rosh Amana means, the head, the beginning, the first of Rosh Lamanim, says the Medrash, that he was the first of the believers. And because of that, he gave it as an inheritance to his offspring, to his descendants. Where do we see that Avraham Avinu was called a Maimin? Like it says, V'hemin b'Hashem, that he believed in Hashem, and Hashem considered it a righteousness that Avraham Avinu believed. Because Avraham Avinu has this belief, and Yidden are descended from him, it's the nature of every Jewish person that he wants to fulfill all the mitzvahs. Like the Rambam wrote, that every Yid wants to fulfill all the mitzvahs, but it's only the Yetzer Hara that stops him. And therefore, in a case where somebody doesn't want to, let's say, give a get when they're supposed to give a get, and we coerce them until they say Roitzani, we're only revealing their true will. Still in all, the Rebbe says a very interesting thing. If something comes without avodah, then there's a crucial thing lacking. Avodah. So it shouldn't be any bread of shame if all I would need to be a good Jew would be to believe. And believe is something that I have by nature, so then it would come out that my entire avodah would not be an avodah, and it would be bread of shame. It would be something that I would have for free without any work for it. Therefore, the belief was a set in a person that it should be divorced and separated from the details, from the specific soul powers, by itself. Like the famous example, that a thief on the mouth of his tunnel, about to enter a tunnel to commit an Aveira, to steal from someone, he still in all calls out to Hashem for assistance. So this is the example of where Emunah can live divorced from the Koiches Pnimiyim. Though he believes in Hashem, like it's understood from the fact that he davens to Hashem to help him. Mikol Malkum, still in all, despite that belief, the belief doesn't affect him on his power of action, that he will not steal. Just the opposite. Not only doesn't it stop him from stealing, he uses a samuna in his stealing. He uses the belief to do the opposite of Hashem's will. That he davens that he shouldn't be caught. And he should be successful in his robbery. Therefore, because there is such a wide chasm and gap between the power of belief and a person's actions and a person's inner soul powers, therefore there has to be the avodah of taking the emunah to graze, to feed the emunah, lirois as emunah, like a sheep that are taken to pasture. In that case, there's already the existence of the sheep. You need to strengthen and you need to sustain the sheep. You need to feed them, so you take them out to pasture. So too, that's what the pasuk means when it says, it says that pasuk in Tehillim, that we need to feed, we need to make the emunah grow, we need to strengthen the belief that it shouldn't only remain in a transcendent, in a removed state that's removed from our soul powers, but rather it should be in an appropriate way until it will influence and affect also the inner soul powers. So now he's going to speak about what causes that connection. So he says in line 27, to be able to bind the belief with the individual soul powers. Top of page Ches. One of the ways how this can be done is through understanding and comprehension. Behind this means and he meditates and contemplates on the fact that this God, that he believes in him already, he's not in such a way like the goyim say he's exalted, he's removed from this world. But instead of being removed from this world, he has to meditate and come to the understanding that Hashem is found down here below. And he's found down here below in such a way that's connected to a specific matter and a specific activity. Where do we see that Hashem is involved in the specifics? Like he sees in its own experience, that he's davening to Hashem for a specific matter. That he's asking for Hashem to assist him, that he should be successful in his thievery. Since he believes that Hashem can deal with the minor details, could help him be successful in his robbery right now, that's why he's davening to Hashem for that success. So in the same way, Hashem could deal with a different detail and help him out. That Hashem should provide his sustenance and means in a different manner. And then he won't need to steal. And we're not talking about wicked people over here. He's stealing not because he wants to steal, but he just needs to make a living. So if that's all you need, so daven to Hashem, he should send you a different way of making a living. Like it says, do not cheapen the ganav that he steals because he's only to satisfy his soul because he's hungry. In other words, have compassion and realize what's driving him. So therefore, in this case as well, this person that's standing outside his tunnel and davening to Hashem to help him succeed in his thievery, since he believes in Hashem, he can act according to Hashem's will, to daven to Hashem, that Hashem should give him his sustenance in a different manner. Now, this type of meditation and this type of understanding, this meditation and contemplation is understood also in the intellect of the intellectual soul, not just the nefesh elokis understands this. Even in the intellect of the animal soul, he understands that if I'm davening for Hashem to assist me in something bad, I can definitely daven to Hashem to help me find a parnasa in a different way. That is one type of contemplation that will bring the emunah into a level of permeating the person. We'll stop over here. Tomorrow.